Today, I'll expose 8 signs that show your woman is secretly bonding with another man at work, before it turns into something more. The workplace is the perfect breeding ground for emotional affairs because it provides built-in excuses for constant contact, shared experiences, and emotional connection. She spends 8 or more hours a day with this person, sharing frustrations, celebrating victories, problem-solving together. That's more quality time than many couples spend together in a week. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and comment if you've ever had that gut feeling something wasn't right at her workplace. This might be the video that confirms it. And make sure you stay until the end, because I'll reveal what these signs mean collectively and what you should do if you recognize multiple patterns. Sign 1. She suddenly cares too much about her appearance for work. She used to dress casually for work, throwing on whatever was comfortable and appropriate without much thought. But now every outfit is polished, coordinated, and deliberate. She's spending extra time in the morning, getting ready, trying on multiple outfits before settling on one, making sure everything looks perfect. New perfume appears on her dresser, perfume you didn't buy, and she didn't mention purchasing. Her hairstyle changes, becoming more styled and sophisticated. The makeup routine that used to take 5 minutes now takes 20, and it's always for work. When you comment on the extra effort, she has explanations ready. She wants to look more professional. She's trying to make a better impression for potential promotions. She just feels better when she looks good. All of these explanations sound reasonable on the surface, but the timing and consistency tell a different story. She's not dressing up for occasional important meetings or presentations. She's doing it every single day, investing significant time and energy into her appearance specifically for the workplace. When a woman starts dressing for validation, it's not about professionalism. It's about emotional attraction. Professional appearance is one thing, but this goes beyond that. This is the kind of effort women put in when they want someone specific to notice them, to find them attractive, to pay attention. She's subconsciously trying to impress someone specific, even if she denies it or hasn't fully admitted it to herself. Think about when you first started dating. She probably put significant effort into her appearance for you, wanting to look her best every time you saw her. That same psychology is at play here. When women are attracted to someone or want someone's attention, they use their appearance as a tool. The fact that this effort is directed toward work rather than toward you or your dates together reveals where her desire for validation is truly focused. Sign 2. She talks about a male co-worker. Often, but casually. You hear his name again and again throughout her stories about work. James said this funny thing today. Eric's so helpful with the new software. David has such interesting perspectives on the project. It sounds innocent because the mentions are casual, woven naturally into her recounting of the workday. She's not making a big deal about him. She's just mentioning him the way she might mention any co-worker. But he's constantly in her stories, appearing far more frequently than anyone else from her workplace. Repetition reveals attachment. Women naturally talk about the people they think about most. If someone occupies significant space in her mind, they'll naturally appear in her conversation. The frequency of mentions indicates the frequency of thoughts, and if she's thinking about him constantly throughout her day, that's already a sign that he's become important to her in a way that goes beyond professional collegiality. Mentioning him casually is her subconscious way of normalizing his presence in her life, so you don't question it later. By making him a familiar character in her daily stories, she's gradually integrating him into your awareness in a way that seems harmless. This serves a psychological purpose. If his name is already familiar to you from months of casual mentions, it won't seem suspicious when she needs to text him on weekends or grab coffee with him outside of work. She's laying groundwork, creating a narrative where his presence in her life seems natural and unremarkable. Pay attention not just to how often she mentions him, but to how she talks about him. Is there admiration in her voice? Does she light up when recounting something he said? Does she compare his behavior favorably to others? Does she defend him if you make any slightly negative comment? These subtle emotional cues reveal that he's not just another coworker. He's someone she's emotionally invested in. Sign 3. She gets defensive. When you ask about him. The moment you ask about that coworker or express any curiosity about their relationship, her tone shifts dramatically. She rolls her eyes, sighs with exasperation, or immediately accuses you of being jealous or insecure. He's married. He's just a coworker. Why are you always so suspicious? I can't even have friends now. The defensiveness is immediate and disproportionate to your simple question. Defensiveness is an emotional shield. She's protecting the connection by making you feel guilty for noticing it. If the relationship were truly innocent and purely professional, she could answer your questions easily without emotional reaction. She could provide reassurance, offer transparency, maybe even suggest you meet him to put your mind at ease. Instead, she attacks your character for asking, attempting to make you the problem rather than addressing the actual concern. When she gets emotional about your curiosity, she's revealing that she's emotionally invested. The strength of her defensive reaction is proportional to the importance of the relationship to her. If he meant nothing, your questions would mean nothing. The fact that she needs to vigorously defend the relationship and shut down your inquiry shows that losing or limiting that connection would be emotionally difficult for her. This defensive pattern often escalates over time. Early on, she might just brush off questions casually. As the emotional bond deepens, the defensiveness becomes more aggressive. She might start preemptively defending him before you even ask, or she might stop mentioning him altogether, hiding the relationship instead of defending it. Both responses reveal the same thing. The connection has become significant enough that she needs to protect it from your scrutiny. Sign 4. She works late more often and seems excited about it. Suddenly, her work schedule becomes unpredictable. She's too busy or has to stay late multiple times a week. Projects that never required overtime before now demand her presence after hours. Team meetings happen in the evening. Urgent deadlines pop up regularly. But here's what gives it away. Instead of being tired, frustrated, or stressed about the extra hours, she's energized, even glowing when she gets home. Emotional affairs create adrenaline and excitement, not exhaustion. Real work stress drains you. It makes you want to collapse on the couch, complain about demanding bosses, or vent about impossible deadlines. But when someone is staying late because they're enjoying the company of someone they're attracted to, the experience is energizing rather than draining. She's not exhausted by work. She's fulfilled by attention, by connection, by the dopamine hit of spending time with someone who makes her feel alive. The workplace becomes the emotional escape she looks forward to instead of dreading. Watch her mood when she gets a text saying she needs to work late. Does she seem annoyed or does she seem almost eager? Does she rush to get ready, putting on makeup or changing clothes before heading back? Does she come home with stories about how productive the evening was, how well they worked together, how much they accomplished? The positive emotional charge around working late reveals that something beyond work is making those hours appealing. Pay attention to whether these late nights correlate with his schedule. If she's staying late specifically on days when he's there, or if she volunteers for projects that require working closely with him, the pattern becomes clear. Professional dedication doesn't target specific co-workers. Emotional attachment does. Sign 5. She starts comparing you to how things are done at work. She begins phrases with, "At work, we always," or "He never does it that way." She uses her co-worker's behavior as an example of the right way to do things, consciously or not. You load the dishwasher wrong compared to how he probably does it. You don't communicate as clearly as he does. You don't plan ahead the way he apparently plans. Every comparison is subtle, maybe even presented as helpful advice, but the message is clear. He's the standard you're failing to meet. Comparison is the mind's way of idealizing a new attachment. When someone is becoming emotionally important to us, we unconsciously elevate their qualities and use them as a benchmark for evaluating others. She's emotionally rewarding the man she admires while devaluing the one she's drifting from. Each comparison is a small act of betrayal, putting him above you in her mental hierarchy. When her work stories sound like low-key critiques of you, you're no longer the emotional priority. The comparisons reveal where her admiration has shifted. She's not just talking about work processes or professional strategies. She's talking about him, his qualities, his approach to life, and implicitly wishing you were more like him. This is how emotional affairs reshape perception. The other man becomes idealized, while you become the collection of flaws that pale in comparison. The comparisons also serve to justify her emotional investment elsewhere. If you're constantly falling short compared to him, then her attraction to him seems reasonable rather than disloyal. She's building a mental case for why her emotional energy is flowing toward him instead of you, and these comparisons are the evidence she's gathering. Sign 6. She's secretive about work, messages, and chats. Her phone lights up during dinner with a message notification, and she quickly swipes it away or turns the phone face down before you can see. When you ask who it was, she claims it's just about a project or work stuff, nothing important, but the slight smile on her face or the speed of her response tells a different story. She takes her phone with her everywhere now, even to the bathroom, making sure you never have casual access to it. Emotional cheaters hide their communication because they know how it looks. If you saw the actual messages, the tone, the frequency, the content that goes beyond professional necessity, the emotional affair would be undeniable. They use work as a shield, the perfect excuse for constant connection. Every text, every Slack message, every urgent call has a built-in justification. She's not texting a strange man. She's communicating with a coworker about legitimate work matters. The professional context provides perfect cover for emotional intimacy. Texts, Slack chats, urgent calls, at odd hours, all become opportunities for emotional bonding. The communication happens throughout the day and often extends into evenings and weekends. What started as necessary work coordination has evolved into constant contact that has nothing to do with professional requirements. They're sharing memes, inside jokes, personal observations, and emotional support under the guise of work communication. Watch for messages that make her light up in a way that your messages don't anymore. Pay attention to how quickly she responds to his messages versus how long your messages sit unread. Notice if she angles her phone away from you when typing, or if she's suddenly password-protected apps that were previously open. The secrecy around work communication reveals that those conversations contain emotional content she doesn't want you to see. Sign 7. She shares inside jokes. You don't understand. You notice phrases or references that don't make sense to you. She laughs at something on her phone, and you ask what's funny, but the explanation falls flat because you had to be there. She makes comments that are clearly callbacks to shared experiences you weren't part of. When you ask for clarification, she brushes it off. It's just a work thing, you wouldn't get it. Shared humor creates intimacy. It's a key emotional bonding mechanism. Laughter releases endorphins and creates positive associations with the person you're laughing with. Inside jokes create a sense of exclusivity, a private world that only the two people share. When she has a collection of inside jokes with another man, she's building emotional intimacy with him through shared experience and humor. These private references and jokes separate you from her inner world, giving him a place where you don't exist. Every inside joke is a tiny room in her emotional house that's reserved exclusively for him. You're locked out of those moments, unable to participate in or even understand the references that make her smile. This creates emotional distance between you while simultaneously creating emotional closeness between them. It's how emotional affairs quietly replace emotional intimacy at home. The connection you used to have, where you understood each other's references and shared private jokes that outsiders couldn't access, has been transferred to him. The exclusivity that should define your romantic relationship now defines her relationship with him instead. You've become the outsider to inside jokes that should have never existed between her and another man. Sign 8. She seems happier away from home. She's upbeat, energetic, and enthusiastic when talking about her day, her team, or the projects she's working on. Her face lights up when she describes something funny that happened at work or a challenge they overcame together. She has stories to tell, emotions to share, energy to spare when discussing her workplace. But when she's home with you, that energy disappears. She's distracted, distant, disinterested. Conversations feel like pulling teeth. She's physically present, but emotionally absent. Emotional cheating feeds dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure. The excitement tied to attention and novelty from someone new creates a neurochemical response that's genuinely intoxicating. Every interaction with him gives her a hit of that dopamine, making work feel exciting and stimulating. Home, by contrast, feels dull. The routine, the familiarity, the predictability can't compete with the chemical rush of a developing emotional connection. Home feels dull compared to the emotional stimulation she gets at work. You've become associated with routine and responsibility, while he's associated with excitement and validation. It's not that you've necessarily done anything wrong. It's that the novelty and attention from a new source of emotional connection create a high that stable, long-term relationships can't replicate without intentional effort. When her energy is glowing everywhere but near you, her attachment has shifted. The enthusiasm, warmth, and emotional availability that should be directed toward you are being spent elsewhere. By the time she gets home, she's emotionally depleted because she's already given her best emotional energy to someone else. You're getting the leftovers, the exhausted version of her that has nothing left to give. If you recognize multiple signs from this list, you're likely witnessing the early or middle stages of an emotional affair with a coworker. Workplace emotional affairs are particularly dangerous because they have built-in justification and constant access. She doesn't have to make excuses to see him. She doesn't have to hide the fact that they're in contact. The professional context provides perfect cover for what's actually happening: emotional infidelity. The hard truth is that workplace affairs are difficult to stop once they start because eliminating contact isn't realistic. She can't just quit her job or demand to never work with him again without raising questions. This is why early recognition is crucial. The earlier you identify the pattern, the more options you have for addressing it. What you do with this information depends on your values and your relationship. Some men choose to have direct conversations, expressing concerns and asking for transparency and boundaries. Others realize that if she's this invested in another man, the relationship may already be beyond repair. Whatever you decide, make sure it's based on self-respect and clear standards for what you deserve.